Hello again, everyone, and we are really glad you're here for this month's PRI session. We are talking about a support network. So I'll be launching polls. I'd like you all to participate. This gives us an opportunity to get into the right headspace for today's session. You've heard a little bit about it, but let's look inward so that we can all share as we learn. All right. So the very first question said, when I'm around someone I don't know, what do I do? Most of us said we'll introduce ourselves, which is great. Nobody said they'll escape. And others said they'll do nothing. That's interesting. We'll learn more about why we should introduce ourselves and why we should at least make a connection at that time. The second question said, okay, I think we have a lot of parents in the group. In an emergency, the first person we usually call is our spouse. Awesome. We have a few people who call a mother or a father or a friend. Great. The third one says, when I'm about to make a big decision, what do I do? 64% of the group said they researched for an answer, which is amazing. And the next highest is figure it out on our own. Yeah, sort of, kind of. And few people said one person said they'll speak to their pastor, and another said they'll speak to a friend. Great responses. The fourth one says, support network. What do you think about it? Someone said friends and family. Others said, wow, a great number of people talked about advice. That's great. And a great number of people talked about guidance. That's even better. So we're all in the good headspace. We are in the right place for a great discussion today. The last one talked about what prevents us from building a support network. Okay, majority of the group said it's time and a busy schedule. Okay, but today we'll learn how to navigate that and ensure that based on the intro Sister Bola gave, we will take full advantage of a support network. Thank you all for participating. Over to you now, Sister Bola.
Thank you, Valerie. So it looks like we're all ready to start. We're going to be putting the youth in their breakout room. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Dr. Ngozi to take us through our parent session. Again, please welcome Dr. Ngozi Ojoke.
All right, welcome everyone. It's absolutely a pleasure and it is absolutely an honor to be here facilitating this particular session. So I did, for all the adults here, I want you to just really empty yourself of everything you've ever heard or learned about network and support systems, and just be open enough to learn some new things and be open enough to just have some new life lessons and life skills that will kind of help move us on to the next level in this particular area. And undivided attention, so be present. And what I mean by that is, because it's all virtual, a lot of times we have our headphones on, our phone with us, we're cooking, we're moving around, we're doing all these other things that don't allow for us to truly focus. And so if this is going to be useful to us and we're going to learn from it, let's just be truly present, be focused, get a piece of paper, pen, take some notes, be here to learn. If you're going to invest the next hour, be here to learn. So the first thing we're going to do is look at definitions, because sometimes that kind of helps me. So what is a network? I've put 3 definitions there and I pulled them, off the internet. A network is a word in the dictionary. And basically it is an action. You have to do something to network. And you have to interact with people, and you have to exchange information. So the process of doing those 3 things will help you develop the contacts and also develop the professional interactions that you need to be able to move forward. A very simple way of thinking about network is relationship. That's really what it is. It's building a relationship. I tell my children that unless you make a deposit in something, you have absolutely no right to go make a withdrawal, because when you go there to make a withdrawal, there's nothing to withdraw on because you haven't made a deposit. If you don't put money in the bank, there will be no money there in the time of an emergency. There'll be no money there at the time when you want to spend. So it's important to learn that in building networks, there is something you have to do to be able to make that thing work. Now, in the IT world, we talk about networks as a linking of computers for them to operate interactively and efficiently. So think about what you're doing in terms of networks and networking and relationships as a process where you're interacting different levels, different things, different people, to be able to interact in such a way that it's profitable to you and it's beneficial to you. And it's also a gateway or foundation to build strong relationships. And in so doing, you're ensuring long-term success. And then we're going to define what a support is. It's something that can bear a part or all the weight. So if you look at building a home, the support beams kind of tell you what kind of structure that's going to be able to stand, if that makes sense. So you need legs. It doesn't matter what kind of building you have, the foundation is there, but you have to have some sort of legs. And the better the support, the better the building you can put up. The better the support, the higher you can build. The better the support, the more capacity you have to be able to do great things with that building. So other definitions in the dictionary includes a material assistance, and then something that helps keep the weight of something upright or keep it on top. So now that we have those two definitions, we're going to go on to the next slide and kind of start answering some of the questions that we have. All right, so life is not meant to be lived alone. God did not create us to be isolated. You heard Sister Bola say at the start that if you have support in the setting of cancer, 20% of people were going to do a lot better than someone who didn't have any support at all. And so sometimes what the enemy does and what life does is to isolate you. And we saw that during the COVID pandemic. People who were isolated, we had an increase in suicide, we had an increase in depression, we had an increase. So the disease during the pandemic isolated people to a point where they now had mental illness, and they had a lot of other things going on that were not related directly to the infection, but just related to the fact that they were isolated. And again, we are a faith-based organization. So just looking at some of the scriptures, Bible tells us that two are better than one. If one is down, the other person can lift him up. If one is sad, the other person can make him laugh. So if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But Bible actually says, woe, if you are alone, it is almost a curse to be alone. Because if you fall, who's going to support you? If you fall, who's going to lift you up? And it says, help to carry one another's burdens. And so life was built, God built us to be a part of a community. It truly takes a village. And so you cannot do this alone. You are not meant to do this alone. And so part of what we're going to do today is look at how do we build the supports? How do we choose who's going to be our support system? And how do we continue to build on these relationships to be able to go through life and do it successfully and do it in such a way that it's meaningful, in such a way that it brings joy, in such a way that it brings a lot of happiness to us. So the first question we're going to ask is, do you have a support system? I'm going to give you a little time. So if you have a piece of paper and pen, do write it down. Here I have said you have a social support system, but you have to remember that you're not just a social being. You have a career. Apart from a career, you're a woman or you're a man, so you have special needs that are attributed to your sexual orientation and who you are. You're a mother, you're a father, you're a sister, you're a brother. So your life is not just one silo, you are many parts in one. So in every single sphere of your life, there has to be some sort of support that has been built to help you go through that part of your life. One of the things I tell some women is you don't come home and begin to tell your children about all the things you're going through at the office necessarily, because a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 18-year-old, there are different cycles of their life. And so your 7 or 8-year-old may not understand all these complaints that you have, and an 18-year-old might be better able to understand that. So when you look at your life, you have to look at your life at the different silos, the different parts, and be able to build the supports that you need in those different areas of life. I'm going to just share a short story here. There was a young boy about the age of 15, and on his birthday, he committed suicide. And in the letter he left his mother, he said to his mother that, I do hope you're happier now, because all I ever hear is that I've been a burden to you. It's because of me that dad left. And my birthday gift to you is to release you from all these burdens. And I think in my mind, if that woman had female friends that she had built as a support for her, some of those things that she discussed with her teenage boys, or all the anger and frustration she took out on her teenage son, would have been done in a context of a social support that was now predominantly women like herself, who may be going through what she was going through, but they were able to have a better informed conversation. They might have been able to pray together. They might have been able to do so many other things, taking away the burden that she now placed on her son, who now in his infantile mind as a teenager felt the best way to make his mother happy was to take his own life and relieve her of the burden. So it's extremely important to differentiate social support, career support, what you do at home with the children, what you do at work, and build support systems round about yourself to be able to help you. And you, alternatively, be able to help your friends, your whoever it is in your life in those kinds of situations. So document for yourself what your supports are. It will help you be objective. If you have a piece of paper, write it down. In the area of social supports, who are my friends? In the area of career supports, who are my advisors, my mentors? Take a piece of paper, take out some time and be able to do that. So the second question I would like you to kind of think about, mull in your mind, document, is do you think you'll benefit from deepening the current relationships that you have? Yes, no. If yes, what can you do to deepen those relationships? And then the third thing I want to ask you today is, do you think you can use some new social contacts, social outlets, friends in church, at work? Just also document some of those things. The objectivity of documentation will help you bring some clarity and give you some action points at the end of the breakout session and the discussion. And as we go along, if you also have questions, you can throw it in the chat, because sometimes if we don't do that, we'll forget some of the questions that we have. All right, so now we're going to look at how do we start and how do we build a support system. So when we did the poll, it was very interesting. The first question was, I dash when I'm around someone I don't know. Some of us said I will do nothing, and some of us said we will at least try and introduce ourselves or start up a conversation. Now, before you start building, so remember here, we're saying to start and to build. So it's a two-pronged process. You first have to initiate it, and then you have to build it and to continue to grow it. So the first thing is you have to identify who you are. You have to know who you are. You have to know what your values are. You have to know what your interests are. The scripture in Amos 3:3 says, can two walk together except they be agreed? So being in agreement doesn't mean we don't have our differences, we don't have arguments, we don't have disagreements in terms of our opinions. But ultimately, when we have an argument, at the end of the day, the argument is not about us being right. The argument is about, at the end of this argument, how do we move forward? And so another thing I tell my children is, it doesn't matter what kind of flour you have. You can have almond flour, you can have plain flour, you can have wheat flour. Flour cannot make cake. All types of flour, you can mix it together, but it will never get you cake. So you have to have eggs there, you have to have butter there, you have to have sugar there, then you can have the flour as well. So in your life, you cannot have just one kind of person. You have to have people around you to be able to bring the best out of your experiences and the best out of your life. So once you have identified your values and your interests, don't go and get people who are exactly like you. Get people who have your value system, but are different enough to be able to add flavor to your life and help you in the process of growing and growth. Because what happens, we tend to gravitate to people who are like us because that makes us comfortable. But in your circle of support, you have to have people that are like you. You have to have people that are different from you, but have values that are similar to you, because some of those people are the people that will agitate you to being better and moving forward. If you have people only at your level and people who only think like you and people who only talk like you will end up not really bringing out the best out of relationships. All you do is we all, hang around together and do the same thing, talk about the same thing, but never really move forward in our relationships and in our experiences in life. So that's the first thing. People who share your values and interests, but not people that are necessarily culturally thinking exactly as you are. Okay, so that's how to start. Know yourself, know what is important to you, know what are deal breakers in terms of values, and then we can now start the process of finding people. So where do you find them? First thing is to volunteer. Volunteer for things you believe in. Volunteer on PRI. You believe in families, you believe in building homes, you believe, volunteer. You're going to meet people, you're going to make friends. Go to women's support groups if you're a woman, men's support groups, your local assembly in church. Find a place where, if you're a singer, join the choir. If you have administrative skills, look for something that's administratively geared in your local assembly. In your children's schools, become part of the Parent Teachers Association. Find things that you can volunteer for, find things that you can give back to. And in the process of doing that, you will come across people that have values that are similar to what you have. And then you begin to build those relationships. Now, like I said before, you have to be able to divide your life up in different departments. So one of the things that's important is in your career, where we're all a product of help, and we're a product of a support system. So my story now, let me just share my story. When I was coming to the US to start the process of residency and fellowship, I flew out here because a friend had helped talk to someone for me. And so when I got here that night, my friend said to me, hey, let's go for this fellowship. We drove out there. And as soon as we got there was a little prayer said. They all supported me through that. But what truly got me a position in residency was my support system. A friend in college, in medical school, knew someone who knew a program director who put a word in for me. And based on that discussion, I was offered interview spots. Now, if I hadn't stayed in contact with that college friend, if I hadn't reached out, I would probably still be where I am today. So sometimes just being able to stay in touch, going to some of these organizations, going for fellowship, somebody invites you, hey, let's go for this prayer meeting tonight. Hey, let's join Sister Bola's PRI meeting today. You will be so amazed at the people you meet. You'll be amazed at the friends you make. You'll be amazed at the relationships you build. And continuing to build on those relationships builds a support system for you that doesn't only just help you from a social standpoint, but also helps you from a professional and a career standpoint. Attend conferences, network with people, engage. Some of us are introverts. Unless we have a platform, we may not speak. Being able to just see someone, you walk into a room, you see someone that looks like they're lost, going up there and saying, hello, can I help you? Are you looking for something? Is there something I can do? Those kind of things are things that open up conversation, and those kind of things are the things that open up for relationship. Some of us do not remember faces well, but will remember conversations well. Somebody's moving into a new home across your street. You see boxes and you walk across and say, hello, you're new in the neighborhood. How are you? Oh, I see their children running around. Is there anything I can do to help? Whatever it is, just reach out to me. You just do not know how far that simple conversation can be built on to become a huge, strong support system from a social standpoint going down the line. So it's extremely important to step out of your comfort zone and say hello. You're in the elevator, you're at work. Some of us remember birthdays. Somebody's having a birthday. You remember to just, write happy birthday and send a card across, bake a cake, bring it in. Just building relationships and being consciously aware of the people around you and the environment around you. There are people who walk into the office and that day you notice they're sad. This is not your usual self. Hey, what's going on? Is there anything I can help with? And that is all you need to be able to open up a conversation and begin to start a relationship that you can build upon. So now that we know how to start the conversation, how to try and build a relationship, we're going to look at you checking your support readiness. So check your support readiness. In the setting of an emergency, who are the 3 top people you're most likely to call? And with that poll, it looked like spouse, and some people talked about friends and family and their pastors. So the next question I have to ask is, do those top 3 people know, and are they ready to be able to step up to the plate in the setting of an emergency? For some reason, you're stuck at work. Is there someone you can call and say, hey, can you please go pick up the children for me? And they don't have to think twice about it. You've asked, we have a relationship. Of course, I'm going to go pick up the children. When was the last time you spoke with these people? When was the last time you picked up the phone just to say, hey, hello, checking in with you, checking on you? How's everything going with you? Do your children know these people? Does your family know these people? In the event something happens, do your children know that this is the person to call? Because this is mom's friend, this is mom's support, this is dad's friend, this is dad's support, this is auntie who I can go to. So even though biologically they're not auntie or uncle, but we have a relationship that is close enough that I can call them. If anything were to happen to you, God forbid, these children, everyone know them. So these are some of the things you can ask yourself, make a mental note. And if you have not called them, if you haven't interacted with them in a very long time, maybe this is the time to pick up that phone and just call. Hey, I just called to say hello, just to make sure things are okay. And you find that as you develop these relationships, there is an element of vulnerability. There's an element of transparency that allows for you to share things that under normal circumstances, you wouldn't be talking to other people about. So you have to develop a relationship. There's certain things you can't speak of with certain people because you don't feel that you trust them enough to be open with them. But to truly have a support system in your social arena, there have to be 2 or 3 people that you can be completely vulnerable with, people you can cry with, people you can laugh with, people who you know without any shadow of doubt that in the event of an emergency, in the event of a crisis, these are people that will rise up and be there for you. No questions asked, they will be there. So that's one of the ways to check your support readiness. If you're able to answer yes to all these questions, you're in a great place. If you're answering no to some of these questions, then it's time to pick up that phone and begin to rebuild those bridges and rebuild those relationships. All right, so the next thing we have to look at is in your career, you also have to have people in your career at work that also are available to you. So how often do you discuss and have shared career business goals? Does whoever your support is in the area of career and business, do they know what your goals are? Do they know where you want to be in the next 2 years, 5 years? Are they able to hold you accountable to those goals? So as you develop social supports, you also have to develop supports in the area of career and business. And when you're at work and you have an issue, is there a manager? Is there someone at your job who you can go to and say, hey, this is what's happening with me. I really feel that I'm being discriminated against in this particular job. What do you think I should do? How should I do it? And so do they know what your work ethics are? Are they willing to stick up for you? Do they have your back? And they might be able to say to you, hey, you're truly not being discriminated against. What's happening here is that you are not pulling your weight. So you have to have people on the job, in your business, in your career, that are people that are your accountability partners, that are mentors, and that are also available to you to support you when you have to make some of those career and business decisions. I think at that point, I am going to stop right there. If you have questions, if you have issues, just please put it on the chat box. And I'll put up our last slide, because I think it's very important for us to understand this. And the last slide says that networking is not just something you do, it is a lifestyle. And people who are successful and have adapted to and mastered this lifestyle are making it happen out there. And these networks, they don't grow. You have to initiate them, build them, and nourish them. And then in the process of doing all of that, you will have long-lasting relationships that are truly meaningful and will come to bear in times of emergency and in times of need. Well, thank you very much for listening. And if there are any questions, once we come back together, there'll be a summary and the questions and contributions will be looked at. So at that juncture, I will stop and hand it back over to Sister Bola.
Thank you, Sister Ngozi. So we'll go ahead and we'll take your summary and then we'll share our own summary and then we'll take questions and comments. So over to you, youth.
And we had a really small youth group today. And Sister Bola opened it up and said, if you are, I think it was Sister Ngozi, if you are young at heart, you could join the youth group. And I didn't see anyone join, which really hurts me. So next time, let's all be young at heart and let's all go to the youth room. But I think for next time, we'll probably make the youth room a little bigger, maybe 18 to 24. We'll see. But just so we have more of a robust discussion. Well, we talked about what networking was all about, and what they shared with us was their friends are their network and also their parents. But for the majority of the time, it's their friends because they have similar interests, they have like passions, and those are the people they would like to see as their support network. But we also did discuss that sometimes we need to seek out a support network that is where we want to go, but not where we are currently. So that support network might be a mentor, who would speak into our lives and be able to help us look at things with a different perspective. We talked about how we all like to be cheered on when we do something, but sometimes what we have done is not a good thing. And if our support network is made up of people just like us, they would have done the same thing. So they'll see absolutely nothing wrong with what we've done. And they will not be able to tell us, no, we missed a step and we need to correct it. Another thing we talked about was making sure that we approach people and introduce ourselves to people, not just being silent when we don't just let an awkward silence fill the room when we are in a close proximity with someone. We also discussed that since they were the group we had, they were so young, if they do identify a mentor, they would want to run that by their parents to ensure that their parents are fine with that person speaking into their life. We also said that it's good to check for want of a better word, the temperature of your support network. Where are you in the headspace? What are you sharing? How are you interlinking? How are you growing? So that it's just not, oh, that's my mentor or that's my support network and nothing happens. Or I only just pick up a phone to call them when I need something. We need to build that relationship. And so cherishing and nourishing that relationship that we identify as our support network is paramount, so we can grow and be better people.
Awesome. So can we have the parents group share a summary so that the children can hear what we talked about?
You know, I was listening and I thought to myself, we basically cover the same thing, just in different ways. But I just wanted to point out a few things. By way of definition, we talked about how a support network is an action. It's not passive, it's active. You have to be involved. And you have to exchange. There has to be an exchange of ideas and needs and values in it. So when my take is also, don't just be the person that is supported. Find a way of also being a support to whoever is supporting you, so that it's of mutual benefit. And I also like the definition that a support is something that bears a part of all of the weight. Think about that when you are thinking about setting up a support network. It doesn't always have to be a support that bears all the weight. Sometimes what you come up with will be something that is partly part of the weight, and sometimes it's all of the weight. But the support needs to be something that is able to hold that weight up anyway. The material you build with needs to be something that holds that up. And that is where, for me, making sure you have similar values and interests comes in, and making sure you know yourself so that you know what you are looking for. So you know what kind of people you desire to have around you. And I'm going to finish by talking about the quote Sister Ngozi shared, that networking is not just something people do, it is a lifestyle. Those who are successful have adapted to and mastered this lifestyle. Great networks don't grow on trees. You must initiate, build, and nourish them to have long-lasting relationships.
Awesome. Thank you for the summary. So next we have questions, comments. Anybody has a question or a comment?
Okay, I'm just going to add something. Great presentation. I think at times we have to be on the lookout. There's some people that we know they need support, but they will not reach out. So I think that once we can sense that, we can try to get into their space. Then also, I think from the sentence that when somebody is going to support us, we have to be ready. For example, if it's like a network in our places of work, whereby you have somebody that is trying to mentor you, we need to be prepared. We need to get something ready for that person. That what are we looking for? What kind of help? Because most times we go into those meetings not prepared at all. And the person will perceive us as maybe it's a waste of time. So we have to always prepare for anybody that is supporting us, or we are supporting, whichever way it goes. Let's be prepared. Let's ask questions. Then let's be on the lookout for people that we know. For example, I can say of somebody that it's like a daughter, someone young daughter to me, but I mean, I've been friends with that person, but I realized that the person needs support. So what did I do? I asked the person that, do you want me to mentor you? And the person said yes. So we moved our relationship to the level of mentor-mentee, and it's been great. I've been able to get help for that person. Then also, when we don't have those kind of resources, let's tell the person, I don't have it, but I can connect you to somebody that will help and assist you. So that's my 10 cents.
Thank you so much. And I'm really, really glad about the last sentence, because sometimes it's not just about what you can do for that person. It's also about how they can tap into your already existing network. If you already have a network and this person is connected to you, part of what you do in supporting them is give them access to your own network. You know, like Sister Tola said, you know, connect them with somebody who can help them. Because sometimes, of course, oftentimes we don't have all the answers ourselves, but you know somebody who knows somebody. I have somebody in my team. Well, she's not in my team, she's in my organization. She's higher than me in the org. But then she says, oh, I know Bola, I can always go to Bola for anything about, you know, family issues. And Bola always knows somebody who knows somebody who knows. In fact, she told somebody Bola has the entire Atlanta Nigerian community under her belt. And I'm like, no, that's not true. That's not true. Don't tell a lie. But you know, that's the kind of support we're talking about. You're supporting people. You're also helping connect them to people who can support them. So thank you to Statola for that. And I also want to say, you have to also do the same, have to help do the same for your children. Help do the same for your children, encourage them, help to identify. Like there are people that I go to when it has to do with my children. There are other people that I go to when it has to do with my career. There are other people I go to when it has to do with maybe faith issues. So have different layers, different levels of support systems. It's not a one size fit all. Thank you. Next question.
I'd like to make a quick contribution, Sister Bola. The other
Sure.
thing I wanted to add is we also, great contributions so far. We also want to give our support network the ability to speak into our lives. We need to be able to allow them to do that. If every time they share or every time they give, we don't take it because we're human. We don't like anything that challenges us. That's just the way we are. But if we are open and we don't rebuff what they share, then we can grow from it. But otherwise, we can find ourselves, oh, I have a great support network. But then your support network is saying, I'm not going to say anything because as soon as I say something, it's as if it's a challenge, or it's as if it's she gets affront, or she gets defensive. So we need to be open to receive what our support network can share.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have to be willing to receive, because part of the reason why you have a support system is to have people who can encourage you, but who also can challenge you, who can correct you. So if you do have a support system, you have to be open to receive. It's not easy, but it's something that you do as part of growing up, as part of maturing. If you are not matured well enough to take corrections, to take criticisms, then maybe that's where you need to start. Work on yourself, work on receiving, like they say, work on receiving feedback, from other people. That's part of the challenge or the benefits of having a support system. You get feedback, you get positive feedback. Sometimes the content may not be something you want, but it's positive in the sense that it's for your growth, it's for your development, for your maturity. And nobody ever gets to a place where you don't need it. You don't ever get to a place where you don't need it. Thank you, Valerie. Any other question?
Okay, to me again. Then also, I think everybody needs a support system, honestly. No matter who you are, no matter where you are in your career, no matter where you are in your level of faith, we always need somebody to check us up, somebody to help us get to the next level. So if we say we do not need a support system, we are in denial. Even in parenting, even amongst families, amongst friends, there is something that we need that is not allowing us to get to that next level. So we need somebody to be there to support, to coach us, to lead us, to direct us to the right resources. And even for our children, just like you said, we need to make sure that they know. But funny enough, these younger adults, they are into the support system. They're there to support one another. No, they're different from our own generation.
And I think from the onset, they've been taught to go on Google and search for themselves. I remember that one time my son I think that was his final year, and he was looking at people on LinkedIn that were, in his area, in his major. And then he came up with this person's name and said, Mommy, do you know this person? Do you know this person? And I said, oh yeah, he's my friend. And he said, oh, he's in my area. He's doing something. He's in EY, and I have something going on with EY right now. Can you speak to him for me? And I was excited, because that means, he has owned his own career, he has owned his own education, and he's out there on LinkedIn looking for himself. So like you said, I think they're doing a better job than most of us, but we still have to consciously, engage them. Let them know. Sometimes they do it very well in the academic space, but they don't do it well in the social space. So it's okay for us to, at least point them, like find out who are their friends, who are in their circles, who are the people they are constantly talking with, and you can make a conscious effort to actually connect them with people, to actually connect them. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Another comment I just wanted to add is that we should also not be afraid. And I want us all to know that even as we share these things, it's not because we have it all down packed. We're also working through these things. At least personally, I am. We should also not be afraid to change our support network. There have been people in my circle who are not speaking into my life at this time anymore, not because they are bad people or they lack anything, but just that it's where they are, and maybe where I want to be might be different, or what they believe might have changed. So if we realize that, okay, I'm not being challenged anymore by this relationship, I don't feel myself being sharpened anymore, or I feel that I'm being drained, or I feel that I'm not being encouraged to move forward. It's okay to change it, because what we don't want is to be stuck with a support network that might make us mark time instead of shooting us forward as arrows.
Thank you. And I'm going to share my screen just to buttress what you said. So here, I didn't cover it at that time when I did introduction, but here I said a support system is a living thing which evolves over time. Some are added while some may be removed as your circumstances and needs change. So you're absolutely right. Sometimes our circumstances change. Sometimes our fields, maybe career-wise, change. So you may have had somebody that was speaking to you at a level. Now your level is different. You may need to, and it doesn't mean that you go and tell them and say, hey, you're not in my support system anymore. You may still need them for something else. You may still keep them as friends, but it's just that you have, or you need another layer, or you need another person who is more relevant at this point in time, because again, we are all supposed to be growing. We are all supposed to be growing. We are not static. Nobody has arrived, and nobody should have that thinking that they ever arrive. If you think that you have arrived, then that means that you have a long way to go, because nobody really has arrived. If you ask Elon Musk or Bill Gates or any of them, none of them, they will not tell you that they have arrived. They are constantly striving to do something. Sometimes they pay other people to do it for them, but they are constantly adding knowledge, constantly improving themselves. The other thing you see on this slide says we turn to our social support, support system in time of need. So they must be in place before we need them. You prepare for war in the time of peace. Don't wait until you have problem. And I think it was Sangozi who said this. The people that you consider your support system, are they even aware that they are your support system? Have you, don't just spring things on people. For instance, approach them. Oh, maybe we shared, maybe your kids go to the same school. It's okay to call them and say, would you be willing to help me pick up my child at some point, and then I can do the same for you. When my kids were younger, we did that. There are some of us, when we have all these extracurricular activities, one parent would take one day of the week, another parent would take the other day, another day of the week. So maybe on Monday, whatever activity they do together, it's parent A who takes them. And on Wednesday, it's parent B who takes them. So, but then you have to have conversation about it. You have to make sure that you are updating people about your situation, about what is going around you, so that when you call on them to help you, they are not thinking, oh, where's this coming from? I don't really know you that much, So we have to nurture the relationships and make new ones and nurture the ones we have. Again, this Ngozi said, if you don't make a deposit, you can't expect to make a withdrawal. It doesn't happen that way. You have to have put things in place before you can draw it out when you need it. So Valerie, you're absolutely right. I just wanted to quickly share that to buttress what you said. So thank you everyone for your contributions. Thank you for the comments, for the participation. So again, thank you everyone. Our topic for June is financial management and accountability. The date is Saturday, June 19th, and the same time, 12 noon Eastern time, 12 noon US time, 5 p.m. Nigerian time, 5 p.m. UK time. So again, we want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. We thank you for spending your time with us. We look forward to having you next month. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Bye.